My name is Gavin Evans, and this time on Gavin Recommends The Invention of Lying. Now, if you haven't seen it, this movie is about a world where everybody always tells the truth. They always say the first thing that comes to their mind, and it's about one man who, for the first time ever in history, finds a way to lie. And I just love that premise. I think it's a really great premise. It's more high concept than what we get these days. I miss the days where comedies had plots like a lawyer can't lie for an entire day, or where a man agrees to say yes to absolutely everything, or a man finds a universal remote that allows him to control everything, or a man clones himself. I just liked it when comedies had more creative plots, and this has a good creative plot. I really like how this movie also highlights how boring of a world it would be if nobody ever lied. You know, even entertainment in this movie, it's just people reading history because movies are technically a form of lying in some ways. So I just thought that was really interesting, and just when you see people saying the first thing that comes to their mind, telling the truth always, and just how it's more awkward, it's more challenging to socialize with people, I like the fact that this movie played around with that in interesting ways. It also shows you the importance of lying, but it also shows you that you shouldn't lie always either. Like, there's a middle ground, and I like that the movie highlights that. Like, you know when you're having a bad day, and people are like, oh, how are you doing today? And you're like, I'm fine. But really you're doing awful. You just don't want to say you're doing awful, so you say you're doing fine. But in this movie, people are just like, oh, I'm doing awful, I want to kill myself. And you're just like, that's a lot of information, but that's kind of a realistic take on this premise. So I kind of like the fact the movie embraced that. And also when the main character tries to tell his friends about what he's able to do, nobody believes him because they can't comprehend that. And I think that's a really interesting idea. Like, they just can't understand that. We can only know so much. We can only comprehend so much. It's like eternity. We all know that eternity means forever and ever, but we can't actually grasp that. The fact that time has no beginning or end, that's an idea that we can't comprehend. So if someone who can comprehend it tells you about it, doesn't matter because we can't comprehend it. I just thought that was a fascinating thing. And even though this movie is funny, this movie actually explores religion in a very interesting way that I really dug. I'm not going to go into it because I try to keep my Gavin Recommends reviews spoiler free, but I will definitely be doing an in-depth review of this movie and how it talks about religion one day, because I do think it talks about it in very interesting ways. Like, this movie could have just been a typical comedy, but the fact that they go to those places, I really love. And I haven't even mentioned Ricky Gervais yet, but I love Ricky Gervais as an actor, and I think he's really good in this movie. I like him as a comedic lead. There are some other good supporting performances. This movie has a lot of great cameos, like Edward Norton's in one scene, Philip Seymour Hoffman. They're great when they show up. I also really enjoyed Rob Lowe and Tina Fey in this movie. Louis C.K. I did not like in this movie whatsoever as Ricky Gervais' best friend. I just thought he had no personality. And my big issue with this movie is Jennifer Garner and her character. I think she's written absolutely terribly. At no point did I watch her and think she was a real person with feelings. No, she never felt real to me. I just thought she was written absolutely terribly, and I don't blame that on Jennifer Garner, I blame the writing on that. And even though this movie is a comedy, there is some funny moments, I just don't think this movie is as funny as it could be. This movie is also directed by two different people, and I don't know if you can tell who directed what moments, but there's a few moments that I found to be very poorly directed, where they just don't have the impact they desire to have, while other moments do. So it feels a little uneven in its approach, especially in the last act. The last act is definitely the weakest part of this movie, and I think it's also because the movie gears away from the main plot, and it focuses more on this relationship that I just don't really care all that much about. So I think this movie definitely could have ended stronger. But there's also two more things that I forgot to mention that I really liked about this movie. The first one is I really like the main character. Not just because he's played by Ricky Gervais, but also because he just seems like a genuinely good guy. Like, there's a few moments where he could do some really awful stuff, but he doesn't. And I like that. And another positive that I forgot to mention is that this movie has a montage with the song Mr. Blue Sky. So, any movie that has Mr. Blue Sky gets 2 thumbs up to this guy. Fantastic song. I love it. Just, every movie should have Mr. Blue Sky. If I was making a movie, I would make sure that every movie I made had that song in it. That's an absolute essential part of movies being made. I wish more movies would follow suit. But anyways, yeah, I do really like this movie. I think it's a lot smarter than it really needed to be, and it has a lot to say on life and religion and just the importance of lying while still providing a middle ground. I think it has some really funny moments. The main cast does a pretty good job. It's not always as funny as it could be. It definitely ends with its weakest act, and Jennifer Garner's character is terribly written, but I still get quite a bit of enjoyment from this movie. So I'm going to go ahead and give The Invention of Lying a 7 out of 10. Okay, have you seen The Invention of Lying? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below, and don't you lie. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.